It is necessary to know about the tabernacle in order to understand the concept of the church and heaven in the New Testament. The book of Hebrews is impossible to understand without understanding of the Old Testament tabernacle and the sacrifices offered there. God showed Moses a pattern for the tabernacle and the testament. For the tabernacle. And the Testament tabernacle and the sacrifices offered there. The book of Hebrews makes the point that the whole structure, the whole concept of the tabernacle of the Old Testament was a pattern of the true tabernacle of the New Testament. The rooms of the tabernacle, let me tell you, I think I see better. There we go. The rooms of the tabernacle and all the rituals of their service foreshadowed the day of the new covenant. Sometimes we think the old physical structures were the true tabernacle, and the church, its worship, and heaven are figures of the old. But the exact opposite is true. God was revealing and developing His ultimate plan for redemption from the time sin first entered the world. The physical structure was a figure to help mankind learn what God would accomplish in the sacrifice of the Christ. Let us be sure to learn the lessons God intended for us to learn. So when we look at the tabernacle and the furnishings thereof, as it's mentioned here, there's a pattern. And God wants us to know what that pattern, we don't know the details of it, but we can know enough about it. And so when you look at the tabernacle and as you're looking at it here and see it as it was, a residence, including a shepherd's hut, the layer of animals, figuratively the grave, also the temple. And you go through this is going to be God's dwelling among His people. This is where the dwelling place. Thou shalt make the tabernacle. Here it means the dwelling place of Jehovah, who as a king in his camp had his dwelling place or pavilion among his people. His table always spread, his lamps lighted, and the priest, etc., his attendants always in waiting. So the people could look to this and they could see, God. This is the dwelling place, if you will, in a sense, in a physical sense, if you will. And the source was free will offerings of the people. And so basically the people were to offer the various things, like we see materials like gold, silver, brass, blue, purple, scarlet, fine linen, goat's hair, ram skins dyed red, badger skins, acacia wood, oil, spices, incense, precious stones. Now the thing is, it was a free will offering. And what I do find interesting, and I think it's in Exodus 36, when we'll kind of get into it, but the craftsmen who were over this, and we'll get into who they were, who were dwelling and doing all the work of the sanctuary, each from the work he was doing. And they spoke to Moses, saying, the people bring much more than enough for the service of the work which the Lord commanded us to do. And this is Exodus 36, and I'll read verse 6 here. So Moses gave a commandment, and they caused it to be proclaimed throughout the camp, saying, let neither man or woman do any more work for the offering of the sanctuary. That's a credit to the people there. Here's these precious things that they had gotten from the Egyptians. And so they were to give of this, and it was a free will offering. And in this sense, they did very well. They offered, you get to see a good example there. And they offered so much it was above what was actually needed. And again, the idea of that pattern from Jehovah. Everything we do is a pattern from God, or it should be. We don't make things up, and we don't kind of do things the way we want to. If we do it the way God wants it done, that's the right way. Exodus 25:9, exactly as I show you concerning the pattern of the tabernacle and all of its furniture, so you shall make it, and see that you make them after the pattern for them which is being shown you on the mountain. And it seems like God's making sure the pattern. Hebrews 8:5. We serve at a place that is a pattern, a shadow of what is in heaven. When Moses was about to make the tent, God warned him, be sure to make everything based on the plan that I showed you on the mountain. And so, I'll throw this out. From this example, what do we get from this? What's the lesson? One of the lessons we can learn from this? God just seems to keep overemphasizing this. Yes, Brother Jolly.
We've got a pattern today.
Yeah. And you think God would, through His Word, that's what He tells us, follow the pattern. Follow the pattern. Mm-hmm. Exactly. And it's a lesson now in the sense that what they did, and Moses didn't deviate, and apparently God was pleased with how they did things. These craftsmen, again, the free will offering, all these things that were given. So you get to see where when God gives a pattern, and it can be followed, and this is an example of those. Yes.
They also didn't feel compelled to add to whatever God had told them to do.
And isn't that what people so often want to do? If this, I could add this, or now if we move this over here, we change this, Isn't that in the nature of people so often that we kind of, you see in the religious world around us, God's Word spells things out, but people, just saying. So in this, they followed the pattern, and that's very admirable. The Lord said to Moses, see, I have called Bezalel, the son of Uri, son of Hur. And again, here's Hur again mentioned again, of the tribe of Judah. And I have filled him with the Spirit of God, with ability and intelligence. In the New King James, it says wisdom and understanding. Same thing, ability and intelligence, or wisdom and understanding. I like wisdom and understanding, but it's the same thing. With knowledge and all craftsmanship, to devise artistic designs, to work in gold, silver, and bronze, and cutting stones for setting and carving wood, to work in every craft. And let me pause here. So God is, He's filled them. They're going to be the master craftsmen, if you will. But there's going to be others as well who are, God's going to allow them to have the knowledge and understanding of, here's what we want. And there's a way you do that. You do that. So God is actually helping them instead of leaving it up to them like, I don't know how to do this, but God, you see the providence of God that He's helping them with it. And one of the things I find interesting, He chooses, these two out, and to me, again, that shows us God knows who we are. He knows our strengths. He knows our weaknesses. He sees us for who we are. And He chose these out. I have no doubt that they there's people that are gifted with certain abilities and talents, and we're not all the same. But He chose these out. But God knows. And behold, I have appointed with him Aholiab, the son of Ahishamach, of the tribe of Dan. And I have given all able men ability that they may make all that I have commanded you: the tent of meeting, the ark of the testimony, the mercy seat that is on it, and all the furnishings of the tent, the table and its utensils, and the pure lampstand and all its utensils, and the altar of incense, and the altar of burnt offering. You will make all its utensils, and the basin and its stand, and the finely worked garments, the holy garments for Aaron and the priest, and the garments of his sons for the service as priests, and the anointing oil and fragrant incense for the holy place. According to all that I have commanded you, you shall do. And so you see where, again, the providence of God, before they left Egypt, God told them to ask for the things from the Egyptians. God knew then, this is going to come back around, and that's where they're going to get the things to use. But He's also helping these to have the wisdom and understanding to work in these various these craftsmen and what they're going to do. So you see where He's providing all this. Any thoughts or anything on that before we move on? If not, so we look into and we see the tabernacle. And here's, and the thing about it, it's a tent, but yet it's got solid walls that can be set up, movable. And let me turn over to Exodus 25. And these are the boards that are actually going to be, 25:15. The poles shall be, 26, I'm sorry, 26:15. And for the tabernacle you shall make the boards of acacia wood standing upright. And then 29, you shall overlay the boards with gold, make their rings of gold as holders for the bars, and overlay the bars with gold. And so we see these boards that are going to be acacia wood that are going to be overlaid with gold, and everything's going to fit together. It's actually going to be as it should be. This is not just something that it's going to be in existence. I wanted to make sure I had that page right there. So we see the boards of the tabernacle. And how they are, and it always faces to the east, and you get to see the curtains or the entrance there. You get to see the curtain there that divides the holy from the most holy, and so basically the tabernacle itself. The overall size of the tabernacle, 30 cubits by 10 cubits, actually it's 45 feet by 15 feet, and I think it was 15 feet high as well. So it was 45 feet long, 15 by 15 feet, and it was 15 feet high. All right, and so here's a better thing here. You kind of get to see how it looks right there. And you shall hang the curtain from the clasp and bring the ark of the testimony there inside the curtain. The curtain is to separate the holy place from the most holy place. Yeah, I don't have a pointer. I can, but you see what's this figure here. The priest. Before he's before the most holy, if you will, he's in the holy place, and you see the altar of incense before him, and the table of showbread, and the candle stand, and this one might be a little bit better. Let me do this one. And you shall make a curtain of blue, purple, and scarlet material and fine woven linen. You're to make it with the cherubim skillfully worked into it, and to hang it on 4 pillars of acacia wood. Overlaid with gold, which have hooks of gold and are set in 4 sockets of silver. You are to hang the curtain from the clasp and bring the ark of the testimony inside the curtain. The curtain is to separate you. The curtain is to separate for you the holy place from the most holy place. And so you see that we don't actually know what it looked like. I mean, this is just some ideas because it's talking about cherubim and. This is. I think this is a pretty good rendering of what we think it could look like. You see the curtain that goes into it. It says like embroidery, but I'll touch on that in just a minute. Let's go ahead and look at this one. For the doorway of the tent, you are to make a screen of blue, purple, and scarlet material and fine linen. The work of an embroiderer. You are to make 5 pillars of acacia for the screens and overlay them with gold. The hooks shall be for gold, and you are to cast 5 bronze sockets for them. So it talks about embroidery, like, and when you think of embroidery, people stitch things on. I think, according to Bob's material, all this was interwoven. It was more interwoven into it, and not something that they embroidered and actually placed on it. I don't think. I think it was actually within the as they were. It was woven in, and that seems to be again what Bob seems to say. But the bottom line is we really don't know per se. And so we just have to take what we've got and work with that. And then you see the outside, the coverings of the tabernacle. And in 26, it talks about coverings. And I think it's in verse 14. And you shall make a covering of ram skin dyed red for the tent, and the covering of badger skins above that. Now, it actually had more on it than just that. We see where the fine linen was the innermost. And that fine linen, the coverings for the tabernacle consisted of 4 layers. The innermost layer was fine linen. It was white. Figures of cherubim were woven into the fabric in colors of blue, purple, and scarlet. And again, here's where he mentions, the text mentions embroidered as it's described in the workmanship. But it seems the designs were actually woven into the fabric rather than being stitched into the cloth as we would define embroidery work. What the figures of the cherubim look like is not clear. For practical purpose, we can say the cherubim are special servants of God, supernatural figures as are angels. These cherubim were woven into the fabric of the innermost covering of the tabernacle, the layer seen from the inside into the veil which divided the holy place from the most holy. So looking at this, you got the covering that's over it, like that's going to be, I guess, similar to that same veil that's going to divide the holy from the most holy. And when you think of that veil, what's a New Testament reference that might come to mind when you think of that veil that goes between the holy and most holy? Yes. Yeah, torn in two. Well, like you mentioned, like in Luke, there's Jesus on the cross, and I think when it said he breathed his last, he last say it is finished, and he breathed his last, and then the veil was torn in two, which is not by accident. Now have access to the most holy, and. You got to imagine the priests that were doing their work when that was going on is like, what? Because, I imagine it's pretty substantial. It wasn't like tissue paper that would just easily, I think these things are pretty substantial. And here's the good thing. You got the badger skin, the ram skin, the goat's hair, and the fine linen. So we read about the fine linen. Now, the goat's hair, the second covering of the tabernacle was goat's hair. This was a cloth woven from the thread made from the goat's hair. It was likely black because that was the usual color of fabric made of goat's hair. The layer was made into 11 panels, each one 30 cubics by 4 cubics. These panels were sewn together. Let's see, the goat's hair... let's see, I'll drop down to here. Since the goat's hair layer is called a tent, it was probably the layer arranged like a tent. And Bob thinks it might have had a peaked roof, like a ridge, thing went through it. Because we think, okay, if things are laying flat, wouldn't water, again, we don't know. There's nothing mentioned about a ridge pole or anything that would actually, it could have been, may not have been, we don't know. So again, all the details, we don't have every single detail, and we can't replicate this to the extent that this is exactly how it looked. No. So just saying. The ram skin and badger skin. The next 2 layers were ram skin dyed red, and what the King James Version refers to as badger skin. The ram skin was leather made from the skin of a male sheep with the wool left on. One thing virtually all scholars agree upon is the outermost layer was not what we call badger skin, and I think they think it was some kind of aquatic mammal that, thinking, the idea of being waterproof, as it were, some kind of skin that would repel water, I would think. And so, let's see, but there's no way to know which one the Hebrew word means. And since we do not know what specific animal was used, we use the term that the text uses and call the layer badger skin. And so that's how we do it, but it could have been seals or, some aquatic thing. No details are given about the size or how these skins were put together. It is assumed that since these layers were outermost, they would have been at least as big as the goat's hair layer. The layers gave protection against rain and served as insulation against both heat and cold. So, again, they had a function and a purpose. And certainly we know, however God told them to do it, they did it that way. And I have no doubt it had qualities that were needed to, rain didn't just pour in, and like a type of insulation, if you will, the heat, the cold, that kind of thing. So I have no doubt that it probably served that function. Any thoughts or anything on that? So, but if I knew some more details about that, but I don't. And I could ask Purdy, say, do you think it had a ridgepole?
I question, I don't know how it's held up. It had to be held up with something. And the other thing is, talking about protecting weather, it had to be structurally sound, because, you had high winds, those types of things come and go. And, with the pinions interlocking and all that,
Mm-hmm.
And I know the picture that you had looked like anchor ropes on it over the place. Maybe that was part of it. I just wondered about that.
Yeah, like you said, that kind of pulls it snug, kind of pulls it down.
High winds in the desert sometimes.
And being 15 feet tall, yeah, you would think it would tend to catch the wind, if you will.
Those coverings, that'd be a lot of work to move all that stuff when they have to take it down and put it up with the electric engine.
Well, and the thing is, you could say even if it had nothing, God, because this is what God wants, He would make sure nothing could touch it. But I find it. I think along the lines of Purdy, I think there were some practical aspects that would be in place that, like for wind, for water, for various things. Yes.
The animal skins, like I'm a hunter, with the deer, I've seen them, the insulation is so good, I've seen them with frost or snow on their back. It doesn't help because the hair is hollow, and that's why they can swim. It keeps the cold from penetrating.
The insulation would have been really good.
Skins would be great insulation value.
So I appreciate your input, because again, I know you would look at this from different than how, because you would think of the structural thing, and I have no doubt, that whatever design it was the best.
But it was not easy to put together, the skill of these guys putting that old slab of gold, that was a skill set in those days. It was hard with the things they had to work with then to do it.
Well, you look at this group of people, and here's God starting this up. I think you could say the purpose of God. Maybe it was intended to be labor intensive. Maybe it was this isn't just something we can just, like a fold up tent. We just pop it up, pop it down. It's kind of like when God does things, and we might look at it, wonder why it's this way. It doesn't matter why. There's a reason for that. And so, you got all the people, and this is something that, you want to get their attention. You want to make sure they're connected like they should be. So we need effort put forth, and we need, I'm just saying. So you look at it, and the bottom line is, God knows, and probably makes a good point that this was movable, to take this down, put it. This wasn't something you just threw together. This was something that was it took effort, and it wasn't light either. I was trying to remember. I think I read about some of the silver that was I might have been used in the tent for the courtyard might be like 3.5 tons of silver. Yes.
I was gonna say it's over 3 tons.
Yeah.
So all of these weigh a considerable amount.
And that's something we may not think about. We think, oh, gold, that's so. Go pick up some gold and see how light gold is, or silver, or bronze, that kind of stuff. It was heavy, it was strong, durable, but again, you know, we don't need to glance over and go, oh, well, let's see, you know. It took effort, you know. When I guess in saying when you look at Jesus and all that he went through, and you think he could have had so much, it could have been so much easier. No, serving God requires effort, and you know today, you know, again, but hopefully it's service that we want to give, and that we are. It's a pleasure, and not a chore, as it were. Any other thoughts or yes? Mm-hmm.
Day to get up and say, I'm going to serve God the exact way that He wants me to serve. That takes a lot of effort and it's hard work.
If you're doing what you should do, it's a complete change. The flesh is pulling in one direction, you got to go the other direction, and it's not easy. And then you, as time goes on, you realize, oh, you know, I got something I got to change. I got something I got to do. I got, you know, and it's a never-ending process. And so, you know, so when we look at this, I hope we get that sense that, you know, you look at it and say, well, why did he do it that way? Again, that there's a reason there and there's a purpose. And I don't think it was meant to be easy. But it had a function as well. It wasn't just for the sake of, you know, making it difficult. It all had a function and a purpose as well. And so we see the furniture of the tabernacle and various things there, and see how it all laid out. We got the holy and the most holy, the altar of incense before it, the table of showbread, the candlesticks, Ark of the Covenant, which is in the most holy. And we look at the Ark of the Covenant in Exodus 25, verses 10 through 16. Exodus 25. And you shall make an ark of acacia wood, 2.5 cubits shall be its length, 1.5 cubits its width, and 1.5 cubits its height. And you shall overlay it with pure gold inside and out, and you shall overlay it, and shall make on it a molding of gold all around. And you shall cast 4 rings of gold for it, and put them in its 4 corners. 2 rings shall be on one side, and 2 rings on the other side. And you shall make poles of acacia wood, and overlay them with gold. And you shall put the poles into the rings of the sides of the ark, that the ark may be carried by them. The poles shall be in the rings of the ark; they shall not be taken from it. So when you look at this picture here of what we think it, you know, could have, you know, you see the poles there, and they're through the rings, and so they're not to be taken out. And and you shall put into the ark the testimony which I give you, and you shall make a mercy seat. I'm going beyond. I'm supposed to stop at 16. So again, this is some kind of rendering of you know what it a similar way that it may have looked, but it was like a chest, if you will, and it was 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. And again, we go off those dimensions. Cubics, I think they allow like 18 inches for a cubic. We don't know. That's just the common people seem to think, well, that's possibly how it was. So again, we don't know the exact dimensions, but imagine, it's not that far off. Not too far if it's that. But again, 45 inches long, 27 inches wide, and 27 inches high. And so this acacia wood comes from the acacia tree, which grows well in the desert climates like Africa, Australia, and the Middle East. I'll pause. We actually have some in America too, in the United States. I think when I was looking at that, I think it said from Texas to California, and I guess there's different varieties or variants. There are thousands of variants of acacia, and I guess it's supposed to be trees. Or tress, but some believe the acacia wood in the Bible comes from perhaps the acacia sayal, the gum Arabic tree, and the trees grow in the Sinai area. The wood is light, hard, and durable, and grows very black with age. The timer is close-grained and not readily attacked by insects. Perhaps this is why the Septuagint designates the acacia as incorruptible wood. So the material they used that they overlaid with gold, this, again, you look at what God chooses for things. Did I see any hands or anything? Okay. You use what God chooses. That it was the best material, and I guess these are pictures of that. I guess that's a small tree, there, and then the other one. I don't know if when they fall like that, if they look like they've got spikes on them or something. And then we get to the mercy seat in Exodus 25, 17 through 22. And you shall make a mercy seat of pure gold, 2.5 cubits, and shall be its length, and 1.5 cubits its width. And you shall make 2 cherubim of gold of hammered work. You shall make them at the 2 ends of the mercy seat. 1 cherubim at one end and the other cherub at the other end. You shall make the cherubim at the 2 ends of it of one piece with the mercy seat. And the cherubim shall stretch out their wings above the covering, the mercy seat with their wings, and they shall face one another. The faces of the cherubim shall be toward the mercy seat. You shall put the mercy seat on top of the ark, and in the ark you shall put the testimony that I will give you. And there I will meet with you, and I will speak with you from above the mercy seat, from between the 2 cherubim which are on the ark of the testimony, about everything which I give you in commandment to the children of Israel. So this was pretty significant right here in the mercy seat. And I'll go ahead and read a little bit about that. Let's see. Oh, yeah. The 2 cherubim faced each other with their wings extended toward one another, formed at the top of the mercy seat. And so again, it was from above this space that God promised to have fellowship with Israel as their God. This is where he would meet with them. The box was designed to hold the tables of stone, the testimony that God was giving them. Thus, it was literally the box of testimony. And so like I say, it's very significant. Talking about the word being dubious, it's like a little unclear, or we're not quite sure, but means to bless, to praise, adore. As one of the characteristics of the cherubim was the adoration of God. This derivation would appear suitable. And so basically, the cherubim, you think about it, as we read earlier in Bob's material about, these are the special servants of God, these angels that minister to God and that are there in his presence. Again, to walk in and to walk into, if you were able to go into the tabernacle after it was set up, I imagine it'd be kind of an amazing sight. And you see these angels, renderings of angels, and the various things, and it's again very symbolic of heaven itself. The Bible provides scant details concerning the likeness of these winged creatures except for the apocalyptic visions of Ezekiel. However, the current picture of cherubim as chubby infants with wings or as feminine creatures find no scriptural basis. The Bible portrays cherubim as the guardians of the Garden of Eden, and you remember to block the way there, and seemingly the glory of the Lord as flanking the throne of God. In Psalms 99:1, O Lord of hosts, God of Israel, that dwellest between the cherubims, thou art the God, even thou alone, and all of the kingdoms of the earth, thou hast made heaven and earth. And then in Revelation 4 and verse 6, again, it's the throne scene there that we see. And you know, again, we don't know what angels look like, you know, but it's amazing when you see like... And let me go back. And I'm in chapter 4. I'll start in verse 2. Immediately I was in the Spirit, and behold, a throne set in heaven, and one sat on the throne. And he who sat there was like a jasper and sardis stone in appearance. And there was a rainbow around the throne, in appearance like an emerald. Around the throne were 24 thrones, and on these thrones I saw 24 elders sitting clothed in white robes. They had crowns of gold on their heads. And from the throne proceeded lightnings, thunderings, and voices. 7 lamps of fire were burning before the throne, which are the 7 spirits of God. And then verse 6. Before the throne there was like a sea of glass, like crystal. And in the midst of the throne and around the throne were 4 living creatures, full of eyes in front and back. And I guess the first living creature was like a lion, the second living creature like a calf, the third creature had a face of a man, and the fourth living creature like a flying eagle. And the 4 living creatures, each having 6 wings, were full of eyes around within, and they do not rest day and night, saying, Holy, 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 Lord God Almighty, who was and is and who is to come. Again, this is a throne scene. So again, it's symbolic language and stuff like that. So we really don't know, except to say tremendous, amazing, you know, definitely spiritual beings. Talking about the mercy seat, the lid to cover, used to cover the sacred ark, the mercy seat, the slab of gold on top of the ark of the. I think we're going to have to pause here. So we're actually going to we're going to be looking at the mercy seat, and one of the things I wanted to read too was Hebrews chapter 9. Kind of look at that a little bit. And we'll kind of get in more detail about that. Appreciate all y'all's participation and